Today we're going to talk about Baruch Spinoza. He was a 17th century philosopher whose ideas were so radical, so completely earth-shattering for his time, that he was considered, and I'm not exaggerating, one of the most dangerous men in all of Europe.
I mean, just look at how people saw him back then. This engraving literally labels him a Jew and an atheist. Now, you have to understand, in the 1600s, those were basically the two most damning things you could call a person. He wasn't just some academic with quirky ideas, he was seen as a genuine threat to religion, to society, to the entire way the world worked.
So that's the big question, right? What on earth did this man think that made the powers that be so completely and utterly terrified of him? Well, let's find out.
To really get a handle on his ideas, we first have to understand the man. And he was a true renegade, someone who broke away from pretty much every tradition he was ever born into.
You know, the writer Rebecca Goldstein, I think, just nails it with this quote. She calls him the renegade Jew who gave us modernity. So he wasn't just a heretic causing trouble, he was a thinker whose radical break from the past actually helped create the modern world as we know it today. So where did all this rebellion come from? Well, Spinoza's early life was kind of this perfect storm of pressure, tragedy, and a deep, deep intellectual curiosity that would end up shaping his entire worldview. Okay, so let's break this down. First, his family had escaped the horrors of the Portuguese Inquisition, right? So he's born into a community that knows persecution firsthand. Then you've got a relative, Uriel da Costa, who was also excommunicated for his beliefs, a cautionary tale that Spinoza surely knew about. Then tragedy strikes. His older brother dies, and he's forced to take over the failing family business, which promptly collapses. So you've got this mix of religious trauma, financial ruin, and a mind that just couldn't stop questioning things. You can see how a rebel was made.
And all this rebellion, it was building up to something. It came to a head in this incredibly dramatic, life-changing event, his formal and very public expulsion from his own community.
And here it is. He was just 23 years old. Think about that, 23. And he was cast out, officially declared an enemy for his abominable heresies. He was completely, utterly alone. And listen, this wasn't just any excommunication. The writ of harem they issued against him was the most severe, the harshest the community had ever handed down. They weren't just disagreeing with him, they were trying to completely erase him from their world. But here's the twist. This is the crucial turning point in his story, because while his community saw this as a punishment, a curse, for Spinoza, being an outcast was a kind of liberation. He was now totally free to follow his reason wherever it might lead him, with no loyalty to any dogma, any institution, or any tradition. So what was it? What was the idea so dangerous that it got him thrown out of his entire world? It really all boils down to one single, powerful, world-changing concept about the nature of God itself. It comes down to this simple Latin phrase, Deus sive natura. It means God or nature. For Spinoza, God wasn't some kind of king sitting on a throne up in the sky judging everyone. No. For him, God was everything. The laws of physics, the stars, the trees, you, me, all of it was just a part of one single, infinite thing that he called God, or nature. They were one and the same. Now, just think about how different that is from traditional religion. The personal, judging God who answers prayers and performs miracles, gone. In his place is an impersonal, indifferent system that's just governed by the fixed laws of nature. In Spinoza's view, God doesn't have a plan for you. God is the plan. God doesn't intervene in the world. God is the world. And the implications of this idea were absolutely explosive. I mean, if everything is just nature following its own laws, then there's no room for miracles. What about human free will? Well, for Spinoza, that's just an illusion. It's something we think we have because we're ignorant of all the things that truly cause us to act. The Bible, a profound human book, for sure, but not the literal word of God. And if the church has no special hotline to a divine ruler, well, then it has no business telling a democratic state what to do. All of a sudden, it becomes very, very clear why he was considered so dangerous. Spinoza died pretty young, only 44 years old, and his masterpiece, Ethics, was still unpublished. But his ideas, they didn't die with him. In fact, they were really just getting started. So after he died, his friends secretly published his work, and it spread like wildfire through intellectual circles. His constant questioning of religious authority helped fuel the entire Age of Enlightenment.
Fast forward to the 1800s, and the great philosopher Hegel basically says you can't even call yourself a philosopher if you haven't grappled with Spinoza. But his influence would hit its absolute peak in the 20th century when he was championed by a mind that completely reshaped our understanding of the universe. And that mind was, of course, Albert Einstein. When people asked him if he believed in God, Einstein famously said, yes, he believed in Spinoza's God, the God of cosmic order, of harmony, of unbreakable natural laws, a universe that could be understood through reason. I mean, that's about the biggest endorsement you can get from the father of modern physics.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big thought. Spinoza's vision of this impersonal, deterministic universe that's just governed by unbreakable laws, it feels incredibly modern, doesn't it? In a world that's been so profoundly shaped by science, you have to wonder, did the dangerous ideas of this 17th century outcast quietly end up becoming the common sense of our time?